our listeners would have heard me speaking with Nick Bryant, who wrote a book called The Franklin Scandal about Lawrence E. King, the credit union, the Franklin Credit Union scandal, and how that was related to Boys Town Orphanage, and boys were being taken out of there and they were being flown all over the country. And at the heart of this was a very, 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 very connected Republican, a black man called Lawrence E. King, a guy who sang the national anthem at very big Republican conventions, a man who was close to Ronald Reagan. This is all true, by the way. None of this has been disputed. David described the documentary that was made about this. World in Action were going to show this as well in London. ITV's World in Action, but it was pulled. All of this is true. All of it. None of it can be disputed. This is horrendous stuff, this.
The situation that happened in Omaha was connected all the way up to the first Bush White House. And the time that you're talking about Lawrence King singing was George Bush's first inauguration. He sang at the inauguration. And so they were heavily connected. It was done by incredibly rich people. Harold Anderson ran the Omaha World Herald. He was involved. Warren Buffett, we all know him as the billionaire. Omaha was such a small town, and this is how I relate it. Omaha is still a small cow town. It's a small town. It doesn't have a huge population, at least Omaha. I mean, if you include the suburbs, but it was a very small town. There was so much going on. How do you expect the richest man in America, and at one time he was one of the richest in the world, especially at the time, how could he have stayed ignorant as to what was really going on in Omaha, Nebraska? Now, I know that Warren Buffett was involved because he was part of the cult that I was involved with. He was involved with trafficking of children and killing children and having sex with children. And that's why this has been basically kept under wraps, because people have a tendency to think that the rich and powerful are like these deities. You know, they come out of nowhere, they do their business, and they go back to nowhere. They don't really exist on Earth. And that's not true. They put their pants on just like we do. They go to the bathroom just like we do, you know. And the thing about it is that they're very, very highly connected.
At the Bohemian Grove, I was involved in a rather private ritual, Catholic, Nazi, Satanic in nature, a service, a working, if you will, with 9 relative unknowns at the time, so to speak. A most unique killing ritual table with 9 retractable, long, thin, sharp knives. Blades. Young Catholic Kevin Collins, snatched off the streets of San Francisco, was sacrificed. As he lay on the table, the knives were brought up through him. And after this, each participant, buoyed by the others, rose to prominence. Leaders of the minions, princes unto mammon. I called it 9 knights, 9 arms, 9 blades. The participants, except for 1 or 2 I didn't mention, are Willie Brown, Arlen Specter, Barney Frank, Roger Mahoney, the L.A. Cardinal, Ratzinger, who's now the Pope, Robert Byrd, George Bush Sr., otherwise known as George Scherff, S-C-H-E-R-F-F.
You mean Magog? That's what they call him, the man who wages war against God in the final days of earth.
Yes. And Warren Buffett, and the Master of Ceremonies was Dr. Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino.
George Bush, that Kelly, my daughter Kelly, was used as a presidential model sex slave for George Bush at the same time I was used when Reagan was president. And she was only like 2.5, 3 years old when that started with Bush, and that, you know, right now she's in a group home because she's so severely disturbed from all the programming. Kelly.
But did Vice President Bush hang around after the party was over, or what?
He was after the party a couple of times, and we were hiding in the closet, but I didn't do nothing with him. He was with a black kid, and he was with a white kid.
What do you mean with a white kid and a black kid?
Well, there was one...
Tell me about the time when you were in the closet.
Well, me and this other kid, we were...
Who's the other kid?
I can't even remember right now. He was from the Washington, D.C. area. So he wasn't from around here, but... were just sitting in the closet talking, just kind of trying to mind our own business, because we were staying away from the rest of the party. We were in a back room in a bedroom.
Was this after the formal party was over?
Well, it was kind of during the formal party, but it was after a lot of people had already started leaving and stuff. And remember that a couple of Secret Servicemen came in. One went to the window and looked around outside the window and stuff. The other one came in, looked in the closet, and thought he'd seen us.
Was it
He had a
dark?
flashlight. The lights were off. He didn't even bother turning on the lights. Come in with a flashlight. Looked in the closet. You know, I guess he didn't really look around it, because me and him were sitting on the floor right below him. It kind of looked like this. He didn't even look down. It kind of looked like that and stuff. Turned around, walked out of the room and stuff, and then we seen this other guy come in and stuff, and I didn't recognize him at first.
Was the closet door open or closed?
It was partially open,
Okay.
so we could, we could see out there and stuff. And it's like the two people I knew as Webb. There's two kids I knew as Webb and stuff. One of them was from Northern area. Here's a white kid, and the other one was a black kid. I seen it at 2 different times.
Two different Webb. One was a white, one was a black kid.
Yeah.
Okay.
One was from Omaha or somewhere out here.
Was the white kid or the black kid from Omaha?
The black kid.
Okay.
He's one that's from this area. And I seen at the time Vice President Bush go in, and all he did was the kids performed oral sex on him. That was it.
Kids what?
Performed oral sex on him. And then
The kid performed oral. Which of the black kid or the white kid?
both. Well, first I seen him at 2 different times. First with the white kid, then with
When
the
you
black
were in the closet?
Yeah, we were
Was
in the
that
closet
the-
both times.
Oh, were you?
That was our normal hideout. Me, him, and other kids and stuff. That's where we hid out at. We go in the closet and stuff when we want to get away from the party.
So you were in that closet twice when Vice President Bush came in?
And I was in the closet more than twice. I was in it about
I mean,
3 or
when
4 dozen
Vice
times.
President Bush came in, 2 separate parties, once with a white kid, once with a black kid? Is that right? So you saw him twice?
Yeah.
And the kid had to perform oral sex on it? And what happened after they finished?
And he just got up and kind of left. And
It leaves one thinking, how big is this? And the answers come back almost invariably, most likely about as big as it could get. We're talking all the way to the White House, the rumors of George W. Bush and Victor Ashe, the former mayor of Knoxville, who has quickly been broomed over to Poland as the ambassador gotten out of the country, is supposedly on record, according to Tom's research, as having visited George Bush virtually on a monthly basis. This homosexual, pedophile milieu seems to encompass extraordinary depths and breadths of American government and probably world government.
Now, I have some sources, some confidential sources, who furnish me information from time to time. And there's code words for some of these various operations. The code word that I'm going to tell you about right now, and this is in my source's own handwriting. He doesn't write too well, so I may make some mistakes. The Black Rose is the code word for this. It's a clandestine group of U.S. government operatives, primarily the CIA, which has for many years run illegal drugs and arms operations in both Southeast Asia via the Golden Triangle and the Middle East via the Golden Crescent, funded by the British socialist-based Russell Trust drug cartel. The Black Rose's current chairman and co-founder is an individual known as the White Rose, or GHWB, a known bisexual pedophile and CFR, Council on Foreign Relations conspirator. This man, as a top member of the Skull and Bones Society, developed the heroin ring, which, while servicing as ambassador, along with his CIA activities. The Black Rose also runs cocaine through Panama from Colombia to the offshore oil rigs in the Gulf of Mexico. That's directly from a government agent.
Personally, I strongly believe that the American government did 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
There's various facts in that are available now that show that this was directly linked to the Bushes.
Mm-hmm.
It was a way for them to get a building taken down. It was a way for him to create a war. Most people are spoon-fed by the media, so much so, and I'm sure you're well aware of this, that they have such a political slant on everything. You know, it's like these reporters that are embedded with the troops everything they do and say is censored before it is let out.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't swing the way that they want it to swing, it gets killed.
Did you know Troy Boner?
Yes, I did.
What happened to him? I understand he died.
He died.
You know why?
It was under very, very strange causes.
Mm-hmm.
He had went to a mental hospital saying that there was people after him,
Mm-hmm.
and he was discredited. He ended up dying shortly after that.
I heard it was a drug overdose at a rehab center.
Yeah.
Do you think he was murdered?
I very strongly believe so.
Because he seemed like, you know, that Conspiracy of Silence video kind of circulates around the internet, and I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, you know, he was one of the major contributors to information in that video, and he sounded to me like he was really plugged into what was going on.
Did you know that that video was to have aired on Discovery Channel?
Right.
They had it in TV Guide and everything.
Right.
20 minutes before it was to air, the Bush family bought it off and killed it.
Really?
Yes. He would have one party that was the social gathering. You bring the wife, sometimes even the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Then after that, there would be a few people that would stick around or come back, and they would have a separate party.
Mm-hmm.
And that was these sex parties. Your wildest dreams and worst nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's what went on.
Wow.
They would get these kids from the street.
Mm-hmm.
He'd offer them a life, and they didn't realize that he was going to take the president.
Which president was it?
Reagan
Reagan.
had been there.
Okay.
And I'd seen the Bushes. There were various people that I'd seen. The one that's sitting in the White House right now.
Okay.
I would not trust that man with anything. He's
Mm-hmm.
a snake in the grass.
Okay.
Lo and behold on that, sorry to inform you people that like him, but if you knew what I knew about him.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of these things that went on, and it was really a shame because you couldn't get anything done about it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the thing is, you know, if you told somebody, you may be telling the wrong person.
Yeah.
George Herbert Walker Bush is known to be a pedophile. He likes black boys. George W. Bush was caught passionately kissing a 14-year-old son of a judge who was applying for the high bench in the White House, and that was reported. The Bush sexuality is very confused, and the Bushes also appear to be the Sharifs. They are not who they say they are,